Hello, I'm Abbie Grotke at the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress cares for the largest newspaper collection in the world. The collection includes not only major titles published in all 50 states and territories, but also titles from most countries that have existed during the past 3 centuries. Physically, the collection consists of over 1 million current loose issues, over 40,000 bound volumes, and more than 1 million microfilm reels. As a primary source for local history information, the library believes that all newspapers, metropolitan dailies, suburban papers, rural weeklies, and the rich ethnic press are worthy of retention and preservation. Oh, I should have my first slide. Sorry. Distracted. Are worthy of retention and preservation by libraries and archives. Yet the preservation effort required, due to the sheer number of papers published, as we've heard a lot about today, the size of the newspapers relative to other library materials, and the quality of the paper on which they are printed is tremendous. No one library can do it all. The U.S. newspaper program is a model for distributed preservation of print newspapers, a 20-year program sponsored by the National Endowment for the Humanities with technical support by LC. The USNP funds projects in every state and 2 territories to inventory, catalog, and selectively preserve, by microfilming, at-risk newspapers published in their states. In the spirit of the USNP, the National and the National Endowment for the Humanities have also embarked on a project to digitize historical newspapers. You've heard a lot from folks on that program today. Through a distributed effort of 25 different libraries, archives, and historical societies, the program is digitizing select historical American newspapers published between 1836 through 1922 and providing access to the content through the incredibly popular chronicling website at the library. Eventually, the program will expand to all 50 states and territories. Today, I'm here to talk about some more modern newspaper content, that which is born digital, and my definition is more related to websites in this area, so we disagree a little bit on that. But in this new digital era, the library, like many other libraries, is grappling with the changing nature of the newspaper publication from a voluminous static analog work to a more dynamic web resource that is difficult for us to acquire and preserve for tomorrow's users. From my experiences on the web archiving team at the library, I'm going to talk specifically a little bit about what we have done with our web archiving program and our efforts to harvest newspaper websites, including the technical challenges and significant rights issues which have prevented us from making solid progress in this area. So unfortunately, I don't have great news on this front. So the library has been collecting born digital web content since 2000. The goals of the library's web archiving program are to preserve our nation's history and culture, identify and preserve at-risk digital content, and support development of tools, models, and methods for digital preservation. We've collected over 230 terabytes of content in over 35 thematic and event collections. As you can see here, did I do a new screenshot? No, we're a little slow in launching our collections. We just released our election 2008 web archive, so we're a little behind in what we can do, but you can see our public website here. Shows what's available to researchers currently. We have many other collections that are in various stages of production, from collection to cataloging and preparing for access. Our intent with web archiving is to capture the look and the feel of the selected websites over time. So we usually collect websites on a regular basis at a predetermined frequency. With most of our collections, it's weekly or monthly or even annually. Because of the large amount of collecting that we do and the resources required to manage and collect this content, we contract with the Internet Archive for most of our large-scale collections. We do have some in-house capabilities for some of our testing, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So we do some crawling in-house, but the majority of our collecting is happening outside the library. But we curate those collections. In 2003, the library became a founding member of the International Internet Preservation Consortium, which Martha talked about this morning a little bit. It began with 11 national libraries and the Internet Archive. Some of these folks have been archiving the web since 1996. member here. The IPC acknowledged the importance of international collaborations for preserving Internet content for future generations. This group of 12 institutions chartered the IPC to fund and participate in projects and working groups. Since 2006, membership has expanded to include additional libraries, archives, and cultural heritage institutions involved in web archiving. There are currently 39 member organizations who participate in the consortium, and we work together to solve issues related to harvesting, access, and preservation of web content. I should mention the British Library is also an active member. In addition to providing a wonderful network of experts in the field that we can readily tap into, some of the tools that have grown out of the consortium have included an open source library web archival quality crawler called Heretics, and an open source Wayback Machine, various curator tools that help us manage and develop these web archive collections. So as you know, and as we've talked about a little bit and we'll hear more about today, just because something is publicly available on the web doesn't mean that it's clear of copyright. Because websites are copyrighted, libraries can't archive them freely without thinking about the legal implications. The Copyright Office and the Library of Congress are working on deposit issues for born digital works, but they haven't really addressed web archiving issues yet. They've been talking a lot about e-serials. Some of the other content, they haven't gotten to us yet. In the early days of our project, as we were still experimenting with an approach to web archiving and beginning to understand the implications of what we were doing, the library sent notifications to websites, but we did not seek explicit permission to archive. Because of this early policy, some news content was archived for our 2000 and 2002 election archives and the September 11th web archive, which you see behind me here, which captured what was happening in the web in the days and months that immediately followed the attack. Since 2002, however, the library's web archiving program has followed a permissions-based approach. For all U.S. government websites, we have to notify the site owner of our intent to crawl. In some cases, we seek permission to archive, and news sites fall into this category of ask permission before we collect. In all cases, we seek permission to provide off-site access for researchers. Unfortunately, when it comes to news archiving and permissions, we are discouraged. We don't get all that many denials of permission. When we do, it's because site owners generally are concerned about our archive making content available to researchers that might compete with their pay archives. Talked about some today. Mostly we just don't get a response. We send out our email and it goes into cyberspace and they never get back to us. We've actually discouraged our curators from nominating news websites in many of our archives just because the amount of effort it takes to locate the contact information and send out the notice, and then we just sit around and wait. So we've actually stepped back from encouraging them to include them in our archives. So in our recent election archives and a lot of our other collections that we do, we just don't have any news except for the occasional random response. The response rate is just abysmal, as we would call it. It's just not worth the effort. In January 2009, I think you had announced by then that you were going digital, so we started concerned about the trend that we were seeing with some news content only appearing online, the Serial and Government Publications Division of the Library and the web archiving team launched a pilot to test archiving of news content that had migrated from traditional print distribution to online distribution. The goals of the pilot were to investigate our strategies and policies for archiving this content and to evaluate the impact on the websites that we were trying to archive. We targeted a few sites to try the pilot out with, but nobody answered our call. Our luck turned when we saw a posting on the NewsLib listserv regarding the status of the Detroit Free Press, his hometown, and its website, freep.com. I think it was a librarian that had posted her concerns about them going mostly digital. We approached the Detroit Free Press about participating in the pilot, and after some discussion with their staff and with their Gazette staff that were involved, the library was granted permission to do a test crawling of freep.com. Researcher access was not authorized, though, so this site that we've done some testing on is only available on site to our staff right Over the course of the pilot, the web archiving team worked closely with Gannett's technical staff to ensure that the crawler was behaving politely, that's a term we use in the biz, and not impacting other users of the freep.com servers, and that the robots.txt file was configured in a way so it wouldn't restrict crawlers from crawling a site. We began crawling in July 2009 using a locally installed version of Heritrix, the web crawler that we use for our larger collection. The crawler works by starting with what we call a seed URL, so that would be, in this case, freep.com, and it goes out and scrapes all the links from that website, or it scrapes it from the home page and then moves on to another page and scrapes all the links. And those links are added to a crawler queue. So we were trying to identify all the content that would make up that site so we could crawl it. The crawler moves on to another level, and it goes deeper and deeper in the site as we instruct it to do. Embedded objects include images and things like that that are embedded on the page are also crawled to ensure that we've captured the look and feel of the site. Additional instructions are written to the crawler to get content that might be hosted on other domains. So you have freep.com, but you might also have a lot of content on, in this case, there was some content classifieds and real estate listings and things over on marketplacedetroit.com. And we have to work with content experts in the library, subject experts, but not really understanding the nature of that site. You have to determine, is that part of that site? Is that content that belongs to that newspaper? And each URL has to sort of be evaluated on that level. We have some automated process to help us along that way, but with the news content particularly, we were making sure we were being careful with this content. In this case, we didn't go out and crawl that content. We decided to keep it out of the scope of this project, but it was something we were looking at. The crawler was set initially to harvest freep.com daily, running the crawler until the next daily crawl began, so it was a 24-hour cycle. With this approach, the crawler was only able to capture less than half of the discovered URLs and was never able to completely crawl the whole website. Initially, we were using a version of the crawling software that caused us some problems, so we had to stop and start again, and nature of testing. Once we were able to install a new version of the software, we started back up again. During this time, we also called on our colleagues across the oceans, and we initiated discussion with NDIIPP members from the Danish web archiving team to talk about their best strategies for archiving newspapers. They have been archiving about 70 newspapers daily as a part of their program, and our colleagues in Denmark, they have a legal deposit law that sort of drives what they can do. After discussing the challenges we were having, we were able to adjust our crawler and crawl at a slightly different schedule based on the recommendation. I don't understand all this. The library adjusted its crawling frequency then to 3 times daily. We did an 8 a.m., a 1 p.m., and a 5 p.m. crawl, only gathering the Free Press homepage and those main subsections of the site. In addition, we started a 4th crawl every day in the evening, so we crawled on a daily basis. Even with this approach, we were only archiving about 3/5 of the entire website. We later added a 5th crawl that occurred once a week that let the crawler go on a little bit longer and deeper to better capture some of the content that was buried more deeply in the site. We feel by allowing the crawler to do these different approaches, we could hit about 95% of the content on the site. Unfortunately, in March 2010, the Detroit Free Press gave us a call and told us to stop crawling, not because of anything we were doing, but some issues on their end, so we have not crawled since then. With freep.com, the library has been able to test archiving strategies, but that's only one newspaper. We really need to do more testing and find out what the impact of our strategies are on large and small and different types of sites, what the resources needed are to do this. So I just want to mention a little bit about what we know we can't do. Due to the complex nature of news websites and the capabilities of the crawlers used to archive websites, the technologies will never capture 100% of the website. We just know that outright. The Heritrix crawler is currently unable to crawl streaming media, deep web or database content, anything that requires input into a form to retrieve content. We can't get it. If there's a paywall or subscription needed, you need to input the password into the crawler, and we don't currently do that. We have trouble with some of the photo galleries, photo album technology, and other video content. So, in addition, even though the tools are pretty good to archive and they're getting better, the web is a complex place and it's hard to keep up. There's just things we can't anticipate. Even with all these challenges, we do feel that web archiving does provide value. The articles, the ads, other content is shown in context as it appeared on the website at least, as they were on the original website at a certain point in time. Multiple captures over time provide the ability for research to track changes in content or to see what was updated on it. With more and more content moving online, we feel we have to take action to preserve this content, even if it isn't 100%. It's something. We don't have those boxes filled with papers in a basement to rely on. We feel future researchers will benefit from any attempt we make, even if it's imperfect. Just documenting what's going on in the industry is pretty important. But we, as Martha said and others today, we can't do it alone. We need help. We need more people to be willing to undertake